And of course, Jadine, the big issue in the governor's race this year is crime. Dan Lungren is portraying himself as a tough, no-nonsense attorney general who helped co-author 3 Strikes. Gray Davis says, "I'm in favor of 3 strikes, always have been."
Criminal justice, took the Neighborhood Watch program statewide, fought for the death penalty, tougher drug laws, and 3 strikes, you're out.
Does it bug you what Gray Davis is saying about 3 strikes?
Oh, of course it does, because he had nothing to do with it. He wasn't there. He didn't help us. And I don't just say that. Mike Reynolds says that, the DA of this county, for goodness sakes. Ed Hunt was there.
Gray Davis says he really supported the district attorney's version of 3 strikes. I was there with the other DAs. Gray Davis was never there.
Well, I supported a version sponsored by the district attorneys of California. They are, after all, the prosecutors. But when the Reynolds measure was the only one to reach the ballot, I supported the Reynolds measure. And I put my support of that measure in my ballot statement in 1994, so it's there for all the world to see.
That statement alone leads one to believe that maybe Davis did not support the Mike Reynolds version of 3 strikes from the beginning. In 1994, Davis was state controller, and he claims he backed a bill by then-Assemblyman Richard Rainey that required the 3rd strike to be violent. That bill never passed, and even now, Lungren questions Davis's support for the failed Rainey version.
If he'd picked up the phone one time, written one letter, testified once, talked to anybody to get the Democratic leadership that was holding this bill hostage, then I would honestly say to you, even though I disagree with him and I'm running against him, he helped us there.
Lungren says Davis is nothing more than a throwback to former California Governor Jerry Brown and Rose Bird, who was appointed by Brown as the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, but she was later thrown out by voters for her refusal to uphold the death penalty. Davis now says he urged Brown not to appoint Bird. Here's how they both stand on crime. They support the death penalty. 3 strikes, Lungren supports the law, Davis the sentencing. Lungren sponsored Megan's Law, Davis supports it. 10-20 life, both are in favor. On drugs, Lungren's agents made more than 57,000 arrests, seized more than 3,700 meth labs, and $6.3 billion in drug money. Davis proposed penalty enhancement. Lungren also says he favors prevention.
That's one of the reasons when I made the decisions on grants, a series of grants that would be made throughout the state of California, we chose at least 2 in the Fresno area, one of them Barrios Unidos. I think that is an approach to the gang problem where you actually go and try and attack it at the young level and get people away from gangs before they really get committed to them.
Now, keep in mind, I spoke with both Dan Lungren and Gray Davis. I spoke to Lungren, though, for about 30 minutes last month, and I requested the same from Gray Davis. I was put on hold for about a month, and then the day that he showed up here in Fresno, I was told I had 2 questions, which, of course, limited my ability to ask in-depth and follow-up questions. Later, we're going to hear from both candidates regarding education. Well, the big question tonight, what to do about the 14% plus unemployment here in the Central Valley. I spoke to both Dan Lungren and Gray Davis recently about that. Lungren more in depth, but neither seem to have a solid answer to that question regarding Fresno specifically. Instead, both referred to the UC Merced campus and how that will help Fresno and the Valley.
How's it going, Dad? Hey, you trying to get a raise? Is that what you're doing here? He's already giving me one. Oh, good.
Lungren, who recently toured Pelco, a high-tech manufacturing plant, says Fresno needs...
What do you do to make sure that the Central Valley is a place where you can have high-tech firms, where you can have manufacturing capacity such as the location we're at right now?
But how do you convince a business like Pelco to come to Fresno, a city overwhelmed with the image of high crime and gangs and politicians who are divisive and scare business away?
One of the first things you do is you make sure you have a very, very strong education base. That means we must improve our schools K through 12. No, that's the first and last issue. That's where my biggest budget priority is going to be.
Well, I'm a great believer in the power of a research campus, and I am trying as hard as I can to beat the timetable to build a UC Merced campus, because I know that attracts biotech, telecommunications, high-tech businesses.
We're going to have to understand that we're going to have growth in California whether we want it or not. I mean, the projections are 18 million additional people in the state of California between now and the year 2025. They're going to have to find places to live. The Central Valley is one of them.
I saw this happen in San Diego, which was basically a Navy town, until UC San Diego started in the 60s. Now 22% of that economy is jobs created by professors who used to teach at the University of California at San Diego and now have started their own businesses in biotech and related fields.
Both Davis and Lungren have different views on education. In fact, in this commercial, Davis attacks Lungren's education record in Congress, saying,
against Head Start, against student loans, against school lunches, and against education for the handicapped. Lungren even opposed the Department of Education.
I voted for Head Start when the program was within a budget that we thought would move us towards a balanced budget. I voted against the Department of Education. If he can show me a single child in California who has a better education because we created a new bureaucracy, I'd like to see it.
Davis, on the other hand, who recently took a tour through Edison Computech Middle School, says he wants every student to have a 2.0 average, and every child, he says, should be able to read by the 3rd grade. I pointed out that since many children can't even speak English, that goal might be unrealistic.
I disagree strongly. New information on brain development suggests that if we don't teach a child to read by the 3rd grade, they only have a 50% chance of being literate. And that is a national study conducted at I think it was either Harvard or Yale, published within the last 2 months.
Davis ties himself to school unions and is against vouchers. Lungren says he wants to improve education by stealing an idea from Texas, by establishing state standards, local control and accountability, measurable goals by testing, and merit pay for teachers. You notice how both Lungren and Davis avoided the issue about Fresno bringing big business and trying to drop crime here? Well, Lungren says the good teachers know who they are and they know who the bad ones are as well. As for the abortion issue, Davis had made a point to say that he is pro-choice and Lungren is pro-life. Well, it doesn't matter because whoever gets in as governor, they can't change the federal law that allows abortion. The race for the city council seat in District 1 is a slugfest between Tom Boyajian and Lloyd Carter. Watch the following and see if you spot any voter issues. I simply asked Carter if he will be influenced one way or the other, or will he vote his conscience?
Absolutely, I'll vote my own conscience.
Without being swayed?
Absolutely. The only thing I'm going to be swayed by are the facts of each particular issue.
Michael Briggs, who is vacating the District 1 seat for the State Assembly, always aligned himself with Stites, Matisse, and was heavily influenced by the mayor. As for Carter...
And I said, philosophically, I'm inclined to be with Perea, Bredefeld, and Ronquillo. Tom refused to answer that question.
Tom is Carter's opponent, Tom Boyajian, and he says he won't be influenced by anyone.
No, I will vote as an independent individual. I want what's best for the city, and I want what's best for this district. My team is Team Fresno.
In a flyer that was sent out to voters by Carter, he says Boyajian fails to answer specific questions on a number of issues.
I was very specific on the issues. I'm a very specific person. If people interpret me as being non-specific, that's their problem. I'm very specific.
Do I believe it? The business people told to be that. Go talk to the Chamber of Commerce. They're the ones that told to be that. They felt that he was ambiguous.
And Carter points out that Boyajian was a former bar owner, having run Zapp's Park nightclub for 12 years.
Well, I don't know if it's a negative, but I don't know if it qualifies you to seek public office, the fact that you ran a bar.
No, that's a very positive, because a lot of people in District 1 have been to Zapp's Park, and a lot of the people that went to Zapp's Park were people in law enforcement.
Tom's not telling people door to door that he's owning a bar. At least they don't tell me that he's telling them that.
I don't understand why that's a bad thing. I mean,
I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't have anything. It's not illegal, if that's what you mean. Well, this is ridiculous.
Carter was surprised when I showed him this document obtained by KMPH showing his primary residence on Cascadel Road in Madera. Remember, he's running for office in Fresno.
Well, if there's some kind of error here, I'll straighten it out, but there's no intent to misrepresent, so right. I will find out.
This is what threw me here is the primary residence, and if that is, in fact, your primary residence, there's no way you can be running for council in District 1. You see what I'm saying?
Well, if it's as you say, but obviously I want to check it out and see what's going on. But I promise you we'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
I mean, we'll get it straight.
Carter did get it straight. Although he still owns a home here on Cascadel Road in North Fork, Madera County, he terminated the homeowner's exemption. And now he lives in District 1 here in Fresno at this home on North Arthur. Still, This is coming from a man who was a former Fresno Bee reporter and current Deputy Attorney General. On the other hand, since 1992, Carter has party jumped from Republican to Green to Democrat to refusing to state. Now, in the next half hour, I'm going to take a look at how much money has actually gone into the District 1 race. The money game. Everyone in politics plays it, and those who master it usually come out on top. But did you ever stop to wonder where some of that money comes from, especially in a local race? Here's the breakdown now between Lloyd Carter and Tom Boyajian. Here's what Tom Boyajian said when asked if he had taken any money from Fresno area developers.
Now, I have no money coming from developers. I think it's really sad that people can make things up like that. The person that's supported me the most is myself. I've taken out 2 loans. I have no money from developers at all.
But a quick check of the records at the county clerk's office shows Boyajian actually took a total of $650 from 4 area developers. August 13th, George Beal gave $250. September 15th, Richard Gunner gave $100. A day earlier, his wife also gave $100. Spalding Wathen gave $100, and George Andros chipped in his $100.
They're good developers, and to cast developers as bad people. They are the #2 industry in this area. They employ a lot of people, but I don't have developer money.
On the other hand, Lloyd Carter has taken his share of money, like $500 from State Attorney Edgar Carey, another $500 from the International Association of Firefighters, $500 each from the Corbetts. PG&E chips in $500. $600 came from Radley Reap of the Fresno Unified School District. 2 unions checking in. IBEW drops $1,500. $5,000 coming from the Fresno City Employees Association. And $1,850 came from Lee Brand of Wesco Equities, who represents absentee apartment owners. I spoke to Lee Brand yesterday, and he told me Wesco, a property management company, has no apartment complexes in District 1. But you know what? That might lead one to believe that because of his donation to Carter, he might be getting a sympathetic ear if one of Brand's clients wants to build there in District 1, if Carter gets in. By the way, Tom Boyajian did return a total of $950 to the Bonadelli family, $450 to John Bonadelli Jr., $500 to John Bonadelli Sr., who is currently under indictment. City clerk records show right now Lloyd Carter taking in more than $22 grand, more than $21,000 of it in cash. Tom Boyajian, meantime, has reeled in more than $35,000, and of course more than $15,000 of it, as you can see on your screen, coming in the form of cash. Tomorrow night, yes, we will focus on the issues.
You're the man to get the dirt for us, John.
I am?
We appreciate it.
Does that mean I have to get my suit cleaned or what?
Oh, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you don't want to get hit with all the mudslinging, right?
And believe it or not, Jadine, tonight we focus on the issues, the views of Tom Boyajian and Lloyd Carter, 2 opponents vying for the city council seat left vacant by Mike Briggs. It may sound like rhetoric, but both are concerned about crime, and they each have different ideas on how to crack down. As I walked through District 1 with Lloyd Carter, I got an earful on his solution to crime and what voters are also thinking.
The last 2 houses, the kids are in the house.
Lloyd Carter is walking through District 1 trying to persuade voters that we need to start
doing something about juvenile crime and start paying attention to our kids in this community so we can get them on the right path in life.
Carter is hoping that by going door to door and talking with voters face to face, his message will have more of an impact.
The root of the problem here is not to find jobs for unemployable people, but to create young people who come out of high school skilled.
And Carter believes the only way to achieve that goal is to create after-school activities for kids, similar to a program he runs in southeast Fresno called Serial. And voters tend to agree. Just ask Mary Dean.
How is juvenile crime in this neighborhood?
Well, we have some young teenagers that are starting to congregate down the street.
Hello,
Hey.
Is this the Galvan residence?
Yes, it is.
You are Stephanie?
Yeah.
You're registered?
19-year-old Stephanie Galvin, who has a 3-year-old son and a younger brother, is also worried about the crime in this neighborhood.
Actually, it's the safety of the kids around here because things are getting real bad, and looking for somebody to vote for is, who's more concerned with the kids.
And Joyce Level remembers one incident in particular.
In fact, we had a shooting here not too long ago.
Well, then it's still kind of a dangerous neighborhood, huh?
Yeah, well, kind of, but no, he was just kind of raising him. It wasn't anything really.
Well, are you afraid to go out at night?
No.
And just who's causing all these problems in the neighborhood?
A lot of the younger kids, a lot of the people who, like, the younger, I don't know what to call them. I don't want to call them gangbangers, really, but that's what they're becoming.
Carter, a former B reporter and current Deputy Attorney General, wants to create after-school programs to combat crime, as you just heard. Carter also says he wants to shift the focus of building in North Fresno to rebuilding the downtown area. He is also in favor of a downtown stadium, he says. Also, how about this for solving an issue? A letter written by 76-year-old Dolly McCrummum, who lives in District 1. She claims when she told Carter about a flooding problem in front of her home, Carter's response was, "You're looking at the quote on your television screen. If you don't like the water problem, why don't you just move?" Quote, end quote. Carter claims his comments were taken out of context. Later in our newscast, a look at Tom Boyajian, Carter's opponent. Recently, I went walking through District Number 1 with Tom Boyajian to hear what he's saying to voters and what their response is.
Thank you. Okay.
While Tom Boyajian is busy shaking hands, leaving flyers, and talking politics,
No, I'm for the stadium.
his girlfriend, Gloria Atoyan, is close by with a checklist of each registered voter. Walking the election beat and knocking on doors is nothing new for Tom Boyajian. He did it during the June primary, and he's doing it again here now. By the time Election Day rolls around, which is November 3rd, Boyajian will have walked through District 1 76 days in a row. And it might be paying off. You're going to vote for him now?
Well, I may. The other person hasn't come by, so, and I really admire that you're out here walking.
Sharon Zarconi says she's already voted for him.
I believe he's an honest person. I think that that means the most to me. It's difficult to find honesty nowadays.
So far, voters might be leaning his way because of his stance on crime.
Well, crime first. Crime. But we have to develop downtown, and all that comes together, maybe.
And how do you develop downtown? Boyajian says it all starts at City Hall.
We can't have our politicians arguing all the time, because when people come into this city, they see all the bickering on City Council and the Board of Supervisors, and they say, gee, what kind of city is this? Hi, I'm Tom Boyajian. I'm running for City Council. I'd like to give you a flyer.
Great.
I hope you vote in November. It's a real important race.
Right.
And what are the most important issues for you in this campaign?
Well, crime.
Scott Byers is a claims adjuster who is worried about cars being stolen in the neighborhood. And he isn't too crazy about letting his 6 kids play in the front yard.
When I grew up, it was safe for me to go trick-or-treating for miles and not worry about it. And now I can't let my kids feel safe going down the street.
Jobs, if people are employed, they don't commit crime. That's one of the biggest deterrents of crime that we have, work.
And like Carter, Boyajian says he too wants to see development downtown, and he is in favor of a downtown stadium. Boyajian is a former bar owner and current divorce attorney.